You're watching your newborn sleep, and it happens. A slow, unmistakable smile crosses their face. No one is there, no sound, no touch. Just your baby, eyes closed, lips curling upward into something that looks, without question, like happiness. You grab your phone, you take the picture, and then quietly, you wonder. Most pediatricians will tell you it's a reflex. A spontaneous muscle movement, they'll say. Meaningless, automatic, the same category as the little startle when they hear a loud noise or the way their fingers curl around yours without trying. It's a biological tick, not an emotion. That's the official answer, and for a long time, it was the only one anyone offered. But if you've ever sat with that explanation and felt like something was missing from it, you weren't wrong to feel that way. Because the science, the actual neuroscience of what's happening inside your newborn's brain during sleep, tells a considerably more interesting story, and one that has real implications for how you understand those first weeks with your baby. Here's where it starts. Newborns spend roughly half of their sleep time in what researchers call active sleep, the equivalent of what adults experience as REM, the stage where dreaming occurs. In adults, REM sleep is when the brain consolidates the emotional weight of the day, processes experiences, and does a kind of metabolic maintenance on everything the nervous system absorbed while awake. In newborns, the proportion of active sleep is dramatically higher than it ever will be again. Some studies put it at 50 to 80% of total sleep time in the first weeks of life. Researchers at the University of Florida and elsewhere have spent years studying why this is, and what they've found is that the developing brain essentially uses sleep as a construction site. The connections being built during those hours of active sleep are not random. They are the scaffolding of the social brain. What does that have to do with the smile? Everything. During active sleep, the limbic system, the emotional core of the brain, the region responsible for pleasure, bonding, and fear, is running at full intensity. An EEG of a sleeping newborn looks nothing like an EEG of a sleeping adult. The newborn brain is closer to waking activity than to the quiet flatness of deep sleep. And one of the things happening during all of that electrical activity is that the brain is essentially rehearsing patterns of neural activation that were laid down during waking hours. The feeling of being held, the warmth of skin contact, the specific acoustic signature of a familiar voice are replayed, strengthened, and integrated. The smile you see is the outward expression of that internal process. It's not random muscle activity. It's the face doing what the brain is doing. Dr. But, a developmental neurologist who has published extensively on neonatal sleep states, has described the sleeping newborn smile as part of what he calls a social rehearsal loop, a process by which the brain tests and reinforces the emotional responses it will need to deploy in waking life. This isn't metaphorical. The same circuits that fire when your baby smiles at you during a feed, the circuits that are the biological substrate of attachment, are active during sleep smile events. The brain doesn't know it's alone, and the particular emotion being rehearsed matters. Researchers studying neonatal facial movements during active sleep have noted that the expressions aren't random across the full range of what faces can do. They skew positive. Smiles appear far more often than grimaces. Expressions that code for contentment, interest, and pleasure show up with a frequency that exceeds what chance would predict. This tells us something about the emotional valence of what the newborn brain is processing in the early weeks. It is weighted, again and again, toward the experiences that felt good, toward the sensations that meant safety, toward you. This matters more than it might seem at first. The first genuine social smile, the one developmental pediatricians watch for, The one that happens around 6 to 8 weeks and involves the baby's eyes engaging yours and holding them, doesn't appear out of nowhere. It is, in a very real sense, practiced. The muscle memory, the neural pathways, the emotional associations that make that smile possible are being built during sleep in the weeks before it ever appears in waking life. Research from the University of Washington's Institute for Learning and Brain Sciences has shown that neonatal facial expressions during sleep are a meaningful predictor of social expressiveness in the months that follow. Babies who show more varied, positive facial activity during sleep tend to show more robust social smiling during waking interactions around 6 to 12 weeks. The pipeline runs from sleep to wakefulness, from inside to outside, from rehearsal to performance, which means every time you watched your newborn smile in their sleep and felt something, you are watching the infrastructure of your relationship being constructed from the inside. There's another layer to this that researchers at Harvard's Center on the Developing Child have documented in work on early emotional development. The quality of the caregiving environment in the first weeks directly shapes the content of what the newborn brain is processing during active sleep. A baby who is held frequently, spoken to, responded to quickly when distressed, that baby's active sleep is saturated with positive sensory memory. The neural rehearsals happening during sleep are built from what happened while awake. This is one of the reasons that the early weeks matter so much, even though most parents assume the baby won't remember any of this. Not remembering in the conscious, narrative sense is not the same as not being shaped by it. The shaping is happening at the level of neural architecture, and sleep is where it gets cemented. Here's the caveat worth knowing. Sleep smiles are healthy and expected, but the overall pattern of a newborn sleep, how long they spend in each state, whether they rouse easily or heavily, is one of the earliest windows into neurological development. Most newborns will show a gradual shift away from active sleep dominance as the weeks pass, moving toward longer stretches of quiet sleep as the brain matures. If that shift isn't happening, or if a baby seems unusually difficult to rouse or unusually easy to rouse, those are things worth mentioning to a pediatrician. Not as reasons for alarm, but because early awareness of developmental pace gives parents and clinicians more time to respond if anything needs attention. You are the person who watches your baby sleep. You are the most qualified observer in the room, so the next time you see that smile, unprompted, eyes closed, face briefly illuminated by something happening only inside, you can hold two things at once. Yes, the pediatrician is technically correct that it involves reflexive motor activity. But the context for that activity, the reason it happens, what it represents in terms of what the brain is doing and building, is something meaningfully more than a tick. Your baby is processing you. The warmth of being held, the sound of your voice, the specific texture of safety that only you provide, all of that is being replayed and reinforced in the dark. The smile is the readout. And when the real one comes, the one that finds your eyes 6 weeks from now and stops your breath, you'll know exactly where it came from. If this changes how you see your baby, subscribe. Every video in this series goes this deep. Next up, what your baby actually feels when you say, "I love you," before they understand a single word of it,